Welcome to Hall of Fame sessions. Today we'll be discussing how to price out your services and get people to buy. I'm Bethany Williams with Alumni Relations, and I'm thrilled to be here today with Full Sail Hall of Fame inductee Michael Cardwell. Michael is a film and entertainment business graduate, a talented cinematographer and producer, and the founder and creative director of an award-winning video production company here in Orlando called Digital Brew that specializes in animation and live action videos. Digital Brew has won 17 Suncoast Regional Emmys, 13 Addies, 8 Tellys. Their expansive client list includes the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Amazon, Florida Hospital, Cisco, Cash Money Records, and so many more. Thank you for spending some time with us today, Michael.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to talk to you, but before I turn it over to you, I want to cover a couple of ground rules with our attendees here. I want you guys all to be sure that you're networking and connecting with each other, and you can use the chat box for that. Just remember, please keep it professional and on topic. And also, I'm going to ask that you guys use your real names here in Zoom. We want to be able to track that for attendance and potential GPS points. Finally, if you have a question for Michael, I'd like you to use the Q&A box rather than the chat box. We'll be monitoring that Q&A section as we go along this presentation for any of your questions. All right, Michael, take it away, my friend.
All right, thanks, Bethany. Hey guys, thanks for being here. Let me share my screen here real quick. There we go. All right, so today I'm going to be talking to you about how to price your services and get people to buy. Just before I do that, I'll give you a little bit of backstory about myself. I am a film grad from Full Sail. I have an associate's in film. I have an entertainment business bachelor's degree from Full Sail as well. I graduated from Full Sail in 2005, and after graduation, I worked freelance for a couple of years, just strictly freelance, and then I got a job at Full Sail, actually, where I worked for 5 years and continued to do my freelance career on the side. So quite a bit of experience from the freelance world. And then in 2011, I quit Full Sail and started my own company, Digital Brew, and just by myself in my spare bedroom in my house. And now I have a team of 18 full-time employees, an office in Orlando. I have a sales team, a marketing team, a bunch of production people, and so I definitely run the gamut or the gauntlet of trying to get people to buy our stuff, which is how I've been able to grow our company to where it is today. So this is going to be a little bit about some of the things that I've learned about how to price our services and hopefully get people to buy. So one thing I want to just start off with is that this is a quote from a guy named Zig Ziglar, who's like a famous sales guru guy. And he says, you can have everything in life that you want if you will just help other people get what they want. So this is kind of like the core of all sales, because nobody likes a sales guy and nobody wants to be sold to. So in all of the positioning that you do when you're selling yourself, that could come down to a job interview or your freelance, or if you have your company, always make it about them, okay? Not about you, not about how it's gonna help you, but about how it's gonna help them be successful. And then the money is just like a way that the thing that you need to be able to help them, instead of making it about the money or about how it's going to help you be successful. So this is very important to remember for all sales, strategies. All right. So now when you're getting started, you have no idea, how do I price my stuff? Because there's it's kind of a taboo thing. A lot of people get kind of nervous about asking for money, and you don't really know how much to charge. You don't want to charge too little and screw yourself, or charge too much and then they tell you no. So the first thing I would encourage you to do is do some research, okay? And that starts by looking online. So you can just Google, how much does a freelance videographer make, or how much what should my graphic design hourly rate be, or how much do studios charge for a animated video, or how much does a mobile app development cost, or whatever it is that you're trying to price out and figure out how much you should be charging, there's a lot of resources online where you can just look up and start gathering that data. Or if you're looking for a job and you want to know like how much your salary should be or what the negotiation can be, you can look that up as well and look up mean, average salary for a graphic designer in Orlando, for example, and that'll help give you like a starting point so that you're not walking into these conversations about either selling yourself for a job or selling your services cold, because you don't want to get on if you're selling your stuff, that's definitely one of the questions they're going to ask is how much is it. So you want to make sure you're prepared to answer that question. Another thing that, and actually before I go too much further, there's a lot of stuff in here and I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions about this. So I want to encourage you at any point, and you don't have to wait till the end, just put a question into the chat, into the Q&A, not the chat, the Q&A, and I will answer them as we go along if any of this stuff's unclear or you have some ideas or questions or whatever. So another way to do research is ask your colleagues. So that colleagues, just if you're not familiar with that word, that just means like other people that do the same thing that you do. They could be friends, coworkers, your teachers from Full Sail, graduates, people like me that have my own company. You can ask them and ask what they're charging, and that'll give you kind of a good baseline for what you can be charging. One thing to consider though, when you're asking these people is like their location and experience level. So let's say if you live in Orlando and you're a freelance graphic designer and you ask somebody and you just graduated and you ask somebody in New York City that's been doing this for 20 years, what their day rate is, that's probably not going to be a good benchmark for you because they might be getting $800 or $1,000 a day because they're in New York and everything costs more up there and you get paid more up there and they've been doing it for 20 years. And down here, the day rate might be a lot less or the hourly rate may be a lot less. So try and consider that when you're doing this research of like where they're at and how much experience they have. So if you can ask people that have been, like if you've just graduated, ask someone who's been out doing it for 2 or 3 years, or ask the 20-year person, hey, what did you charge when you first graduated? Or what do you think I can get? Because I know you obviously make a lot more, but you probably won't be able, if someone with 20 years in New York is getting $1,000 a day and you just graduated, the chances of you getting that are probably pretty low because you don't have the experience that those guys have, and you don't live in that market. So just keep that in mind when you're doing this type of research. And then another thing that you can do is what I call kicking some tires. So let's say you want to make animated videos and you don't know how much to charge for that. Part of your research is you looked online, and these companies like mine, we don't put our pricing on our website. And the reason why we don't do that is because we want people to call us, because we got to get these guys on the phone to get them to buy our stuff. So if we put the pricing right on the website and they don't like the look of that pricing, we don't get a chance to like fill the value bucket, which is what I'm going to talk about a little bit later, to be able to tell them why it's worth the price. So anyway, a lot of companies don't put the pricing on their website. So what we do sometimes, and some people might consider this a little bit shady, but is we'll fill out a form on a competitor's page, pretend to be someone else, go through their sales process and learn about what they're charging, how they do the sales, what their presentation looks like, things like that. And then we can learn how we can differentiate us from them and also figure out their pricing, and helps us figure out how to price our stuff competitively with theirs. It looks like we got a couple questions here. So let's see. So Mark saying, when do you ask to be paid for your talent and work? I know there's a lot of unpaid positions that people are expected to gain experience in the industry. Yep. So when you first get started, you're going to do a lot of stuff for cheap or for free. That's normal. So, I would, you can't do that forever though. So, yeah, as far as expect to get paid, there'll probably be some opportunities where you will get paid and some that you won't. So you just need to think about, like, for the unpaid ones, like, how is this going to help you grow? Because, for the unpaid thing, like, you're helping them and you want to show up and be a team player and do whatever they say because those people might be referring you to a job or hiring you for a job. But also, if it's a super small company, like a one-man guy, for example, which that was me at one point, and I didn't do this, but I've gotten hired by just one dude's like, hey, can you do this for free? And then they just kind of run you through the ringer, and they're just kind of using you. So you have to just be aware of like when it gets to that point. Now, if you're working for like, you go to Warner Brothers or something and they run you through the ringer, you run right through that ringer as long as they tell you to. And so, because there's lots of opportunities for a big job there. But if it's just Joe Schmo, like got this small little project and he's run you through the ringer on free stuff, then, the chances of that leading into like a big opportunity are a lot less. So you just got to, I don't know, feel it out. And when you feel like you're being really treated unfairly, then you can go ahead and part ways from them. But I would say, I started getting paid on jobs right after school for small jobs. And then some I did for free. Some I voluntarily did for free because I wanted to have content to build my portfolio, because in our world, for the video world, like that's like creating video content for other people is how we sell our stuff. Cause they always ask, hey, can you do this? And then I'll say yes. And then they say, oh, can you see it? Can I see something like that? And I have an example to show them. So definitely doing free work has a lot of value because you can use that in your marketing as well. But, probably in 6 to 18 months, you should be done doing free stuff for the most part. Let's see. Are professionals really open to sharing their rates? There's such a taboo of talking about money in this country. Yeah, I know. Yeah, the whole money thing is it is definitely taboo. You can, if you ask me, I would tell you what we charge. So, when I graduated from Full Sail, for a day rate on a camera, for a camera guy, to be a camera guy, I charge between, 300 and 500 a day. The camera guys we hire now are between, 700 and 1,000. So if you want to hit Bernadette, I don't know what industry you're in, but if you want to ask me, I'll tell you anything you want to know about what we price. But most people are pretty open about it. It's not like you're trying to steal their business. You're just saying like, hey, like, how much do you charge for stuff? And you could, if you wanted to, you could do this approach and say, hey, I need some help with with a project. Can you tell me how much you charge so I can pass that along to the client? And then, of course, that maybe isn't actually true, but that could be another way that you could find that out. So most people, I think, are pretty open to telling you what they, to sharing that information with you. I found anyway. All right. So now I'm going to talk a little bit more specifically about how to actually figure out the price. So you've done for yourself. So you've done your research, you figured out like, okay, this is about what other people are charging. I'm factoring in how long I've been doing this, and then I probably need to come in a little bit less because I don't have a giant portfolio or a lot of experience or whatever your scenario is. You've kind of figured out a baseline of what the going rate is. So now you have to figure out though what that actual number is going to be for you. So this is how to do it with clients. So as a freelancer, this is the formula that I use to figure out my rate as a freelancer. So I took the hourly rate that I wanted to make, and then I took the estimated number of hours I thought it was going to take, and then I added 20% of this total, added 20% of these two numbers combined, and that was the budget I gave them. So this will also depend on what market you're in. So if you're working with, like, let's say you're working with a small business and they want, I'm just going to use video because that's what we do. Let's say they want a video, and I think it's going to take me like 30 hours to make this video, but I'm not sure. So you'll just, like, if I tell them, oh, my hourly rate's like $50 an hour or $30 an hour or whatever you think it is, the chances of them saying yes to buy it is going to be low, because they're going to be like, well, how much is that? As a business owner myself, I can't, like, I want to get a fixed dollar amount so that I know I'm not going to end up going into hourly rate, hell of oh, I thought this was going to be 300 and now it's like 3,000 because you just told me it was $30 an hour and didn't give me an actual price. So they're probably, a lot of these companies will probably press you to say, well, how much is the actual cost? So that's why I'm proposing that you give them an actual budget. So instead of like your hourly rate, don't even tell them what your hourly rate is. So let's say in this scenario, you wanted to make, let's say you want to make $3,000. Let's say you thought your hourly rate is $30 an hour and you think it's going to take you 100 hours to do this thing. So 100 hours times $30 is $3,000. Okay. Now what's going to happen is, because you just only estimated the exact number of hours it's going to take you, they're probably going to have revision time and stuff that you didn't plan on that's going to take longer. So you're going to add another 20% of that total. So $30 per hour times 100 hours is $3,000. And then 20% of that is $600. So you would tell them $3,600 in that scenario. So I know that's kind of math and a lot of people don't like that, but does that make sense to you, Bethany?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Very clear. I love that idea, actually.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so if you come up with an actual budget, it's going to make it a lot easier to sell rather than just giving them the hourly rate. And this is a formula that I've used to do that. Now, another thing that we do, because this is, this is a fixed budget. So one caveat that we have when we sell our services, because we sell them on a project-based fee just like this, is that we tell them there's a limited amount of revision time, because in our world, revisions can become hell. So and get very, very expensive. So like for our services, if I was doing the same scenario, I say, oh, this is $3,600. And then at some point in the sales process and in the agreement, I would say, yes, there's a limited amount of revision time. I'm going to include 8 hours of included revisions, or whatever that number is. Some people, like when I first started doing this, and kind of the industry standard is you do rounds of revisions, but I found rounds to be very loose. And if they send like one note and then they send like, 5 notes, is it really fair to consider that one note that they sent first, like as a round? Like, I don't know, this doesn't really seem fair to them. So then now we're at one round. It's just too confusing. Or if they send like 3 pages of notes and you're like, dude, this is going to take me 100 hours just to fix this whole thing, and I only charge them for 100 hours anyway. So you just try and if I found that doing an hour, like you get 8 hours of included revision time, and anything additional beyond that 8 hours will be estimated, you'll be given an estimate of what that will cost before any costs are incurred, and then you can decide whether or not you want to do it. And for our hourly revision rate, like I'm not sitting there watching the clock, oh, it's 8 hours and 1 second, now you got to pay. I usually let it slide to like 8 or 12, somewhere around there. And then when at that point they've sent a few rounds of notes, and I'll say, okay, I'm going to do this round of changes for you, but after this, we're going to be out of revision time. So anything else I'll have to get you an estimate for. And usually, because you've been upfront with this revision time from the beginning, they know they've been kind of being a pain, and they usually agree, okay, yeah, that's fine. Or they'll magically run out of revisions because they don't want to pay more. All right. So now with subcontractors, so let's say you want to, I don't know, let's say I'll just use my company, for example. Let's say we want to do an animated video, but I don't have the bandwidth for people here on my staff to do it. So I need to hire someone else to do like the illustration or the animation or both. So the first thing that I do is I'll call up, I have to find someone that's good first, which is kind of another whole presentation about that. But let's say on my list, I have some people that I like to work with. So I'll call them up and I'll say, hey, Bethany, I've got a 1-minute-long video, it's 2D animation. And it has characters in it. So how much would you charge for that? And then Bethany will tell me her price. And then basically I go back to the client and I'll either add between 20 or 100% more to the client. So if she tells me $5,000, for example, I'll either raise it up to $6,000 or even sometimes up to $10,000 is what I tell the clients. So some people think like, dude, what the hell? Like, that's not very fair to these guys. You're doubling their price. But what you got to understand is that, like, for someone like me, I'm spending a lot of money and time, and I've spent 10 years getting my company to a point where I can even get this client. And if it wasn't for me, Bethany would not even know who this person was, you know? So like, so that, and I don't mean to say that sounded kind of harsh, Bethany, but you know, I'm just using it as an example. So the power of getting the sale and getting the client is almost more important than the actual production itself, because that is very, very difficult to do, and that's worth money, you know. So it, you know, I don't advertise. I wouldn't tell Bethany like how much more I was charging to the client, and I make sure I don't copy Bethany on emails with the client that would have the budget in there, because I don't want her to get her feelings hurt. Like, oh, they're charging twice what I charged. But anyway, it's kind of to be, most of the people in Bethany's situation that we work with, they know we charge more. I just don't advertise to them how much. But in order for you to figure out how much you should charge your client, like sometimes we'll get a job like, hey, can you do this web page? And I'm like, well, I don't say this to them, but in my mind, they're like, shoot, we don't do web pages. So then I get the information from the client, figure out exactly what they want. Then I call our web people and I say, hey, how much would it cost to do this? I find out their price. Then I go back to the client and I tell them what our price is, which is either 10 to 100% more of what the freelancer told me. So this is a good kind of rule of thumb. When you're using a subcontractor, you should always make a little bit more money off of them. And this is kind of a good, you know, range. It's usually somewhere in between here. All right, now this one's a little bit more tricky. So this is a mistake that I've made having my business, is that you can't, like going back to this scenario, like how I originally did it was like, let's say I've got, you know, artists that are making $25 an hour, right? And I'll just say, okay, well, I'll just charge 50 and I'll just base all my pricing off of that, and then I should be making good money, right? Well, so let's say you've got 10 staff all making $25 an hour. So you create your all of your prices based on a $50 an hour rate using this, you know, using this equation here. So the problem with so that seems like you're making good money, but actually when I went back and fixed this, I did this exact plan, and then I wasn't making any money. I'm like, why the hell are we not making money? I'm charging double what we're paying. Okay, well, the problem was that I didn't factor in all of the expenses that go along with having your business. So this can also apply to you as a freelancer too. It's not just your hourly rate, but you have other overhead, like maybe you're renting a co-working space, or maybe maybe you have 2 people on your team that you don't have to have 10 people on your team for this equation to work. But you need to factor in all of your overhead, so that your rent, your marketing, your heat, your whatever, like your staff, however many hours that they can do, and then divide that by the total numbers of your 10 staff. So, and that will get you the minimum hourly rate to break even. Okay, so if I have 10 staff members, that means they can work. Oh shoot. Oh man, how's it doing that? Okay, there we go. All right, so if I have, let's say my overhead for my business is $100,000 a month, okay? And then I've got 10 staff members that can, if I work them every hour of the month, that they could maximum work 170 hours each per month. So that's $1,700 per month. Well, if I divide 100K by my total expenses divided by those 1,700 hours I can get out of everyone, that equals $59 an hour. So actually at this $50 an hour rate that I thought was doubling, I'm actually losing money because it's less. So this is a very important equation, is that you have to add up all of your overhead and then divide that by the number of hours for all of your staff. And that will give you the minimum hourly rate that you need to do to break even. So really I needed to be charging like at least like 70 or 80 or more to be able for the company to make money. So this is why we weren't making money. Anybody have any questions on that? I know it's kind of a little bit confusing, but no? Okay, well, if you do, let me know. All right, so now with studios, this is gonna be in a different scenario. They usually like to get your day rate or an hourly rate. Sometimes they'll want a project fee. Like if I were to hire Bethany, I'd want her to give me a project fee. A lot of times when I call someone like Bethany, they're like, oh, I'm 500 a day. And I was like, well, I can't really work with that because I'm selling it on a project fee. So Bethany, I need you to give me like your actual price for this 60-second video. And she'll say, okay, well, I guess I'd charge you $5,000 for that. And I say, okay. But a lot of these other studios, like ones in New York or California, especially, the industry standard is a day rate, and they'll book you on for like 5 days, and they'll put a hold on you for like 10 more days if they need more. So you're gonna want to make sure that you have your day rate ready when you get on the phone with these guys, because they're gonna ask you. Always have you want to have all of these scenarios figured out, because as a freelancer, the day rate is important. Sometimes they're going to want an hourly rate, and then sometimes they're going to want a project fee. So make sure you know what all of these numbers are. So depending on if you're freelance, you're with a studio, or you're selling directly to a client, or you're running a company, you kind of know what these answers are for your fees. And then again, make sure that it's competitive and consider your location. So, $1,000 a day in New York is probably average. Down here, that would be like skyrocketed. So, you have to think about where you're at and make sure that whatever rate you give them is not like too low where you're screwing yourself, but also not like too high where they're just going to say no right away. All right. And so no questions. Okay. All right. So now how to sell. This is a very important thing that is also something that's very taboo and no one likes to talk about because nobody likes salespeople. Okay, let's see. Do these things apply to, or nope? So Bernadette's asking if these things apply to creative writing positions as well, or for visual medias only. So Bernadette, we hire writers all the time for our scripts. And when I'll ask them, I'll do the same scenario where I ask them how much do they charge for a 1-minute script. And a lot of times it's, maybe between $200 and $400. And then I'll just charge or between $250 and $400 per finished minute. And then I'll pass it along to the client like $500. So these things, I think these are pretty universal for most of our industry, including creative writing, because I deal with writers myself. All right. So now how to sell. So let's say you did your research. Okay, you found your baseline price point. You use the equations. All right, now I figured out my pricing and I got a lead. Okay, for getting a lead or getting someone on the phone, getting a new client is super scary at first. So one thing that if you remember nothing else from this is like, do not be nervous when you're talking to them. Okay, it does, like one thing, this is gonna sound dumb, but sometimes I would literally go when I was just me. So I have a sales guy now, so I don't have to deal with this. But before when I was doing it myself, I'd literally go in the mirror and look myself right in the eye and say like, you are awesome. It does not matter if you don't get this. It does not, just do your best. It's going to be fine. And just like literally hype myself up. Or I've had people tell me on the phone before, like new prospects, they say, wow, you sound like really tired or like monotone. Cause I do kind of sound like that. So, but another time times when I get on the phone, I go like this, like, like I just get myself all smiley. And I try to, you can even hear my voice sounds different when I'm smiling, and they can hear that on the phone. So those are a few little techniques that seem small, but they're actually important to not being nervous and making them feel like you're like really excited to talk to them. Be in a great mood. And if you're not in a great mood, you got to make yourself in a great mood, because getting these sales calls and getting these leads and new clients is really difficult to get. You're going to find out. And so when you get one, you want to give yourself the best opportunity not to lose it. And then this also, when I say make it about them, that's what goes back to that Zig Ziglar quote at the beginning. Is just like, make it all about how you can help them. Listen to them, like ask them what they do, like, ask them what about their business, about their project, what their goals are, who their target audience is, like when do they want it done, like any inspiration or examples that they have of things that they liked, or like, get them talking about the project so that they feel like you're really invested in them. And then you can start talking about how you can help. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that too as we go on. But in sales, it's always super important to make the client feel like you are there to serve them, not the other way around. So the first thing when you get a lead is you're going to want to do a discovery call. That's what the business lingo term for an initial call. And that's what I said, learn all about them and how you can help them. And then this is another great sales technique is, when they tell you about what they want, repeat it back to them at the end. Okay, so what I hear you saying is you want the X, Y, and you're going to probably need to take notes to do this, but okay, what I hear you saying is you want X, Y, and Z. Well, actually, we've done quite a bit of Y, so I think we'd be a good fit to support you with that. And so you can kind of they're repeating what they say back to them, lets them know that you're listening. Okay, and that makes them feel good and gain confidence in you, and that's what you want, because if they're not confident in you, they're not going to want to go with you. So this goes from freelance to creative writing to whatever, any business venture that you do, even a job interview. Like when you're going on this, you could easily change this discovery call to job interview. When you go there, make it feel like you're there to serve them and not how you're going to help them. So for example, when I get people in here for a job interview and I'll ask them, so why do you want to work here? And they're like, well, I think I'm in a good stage in my career where this is going to really help me grow as an artist. And this is going to launch my career. And this is going to make me I. Okay. Or the other. So right immediately I'm like, okay, this person obviously doesn't care about my company at all. And they're probably not going to be here very long because they just want to launch their career. Or the opposite is like, look, I've been following Digital Brew for some time now. I've looked at lots of your videos. Like, I really love what you guys are doing here. I think I'd be a valuable asset to help you grow your company. And really, I'd love to learn more about how I can support you guys and really help you bring great content to all of your customers. Okay, so that is a much different way of saying kind of the same thing almost, but they made it about me. And so I'm like, oh, okay, this person cares about me. They want to work with me. I'm more likely to hire them. Okay. All right. So let's go back to the not interview scenario. So, okay, you did the discovery call with the client. You learned about what they want for their project. You took notes and you figured out, you asked all the questions. Another thing you want to figure out on this discovery call is you want to understand the scope of what they want. So if someone just calls us and say, hey, I want a video, and I'm like, okay, great, I'll make a proposal. I have no idea what to put in that proposal because there's like 10 million different videos I can make for them that have all different price points. So I'd say, like, do you want an animated video or a live action video? Oh, animated. Okay. Like, well, tell me about your company. And then they're like, well, we're a human resources company and we all about helping people. I'm like, okay, well, you're probably going to need characters in that video, which is a higher price point. I don't say that to them, but like, okay, so you're probably going to want character in your video. Would that be okay with you? They'd be like, yes. That's another tactic for sales, is like, always get their permission on stuff. Like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and send a proposal to you. Is that okay with you? Yes. Or do you want characters? Yes. So get their permission on things. But you want to, on this discovery call, you want to understand all of the scope and all of what they want, so that you can prepare the proposal and you have no guesswork when you're making that, or very little. So then the next step is that you're going to want to make a proposal. So this isn't actually an animated video we did for a proposal application called PandaDoc, and that's the one that we use. And it's awesome. It's not super cheap, but if you're doing a lot of proposals, it makes them in templates. It tells you when they opened it or not, which is another thing. Like just that alone is like awesome, because a lot of times before this I'd send out proposals or emails and I never know if they even got it. And maybe you guys have experiences too. You don't know if they opened the email. You're just sitting there waiting, like, did these guys even get it? Like, my email going through. So with this thing, it'll tell you like when they opened it, how long they opened it, what pages they were on the most. You can chat with them right in the proposal. When you send a proposal, you want to keep them in the proposal. You don't want to like send them off somewhere else. This also has link. You can put all of your designs right in here, or your animations or your writing examples. Everything can go in here so that you're keeping them in here and not distracting them from getting out of the proposal. But anyway, so you make your proposal, and then once you have it done, you set up another time with them, which actually you need to do at the end of this discovery calls. You'll say, all right, I'm going to prepare a proposal for you, and I'd like to go over it with you on the phone. Is that okay? Yeah, great. Okay, when would be a good time for you to do that? And you schedule the next meeting for that proposal call right at the end of this discovery call. And you want to go over this proposal with them on the phone. The main reason is that you want to be able to like handle any objections that they have. So if you don't know what an objection means or what that means, that's kind of another business lingo term. But basically it means all the reasons why they're going to say no. So if you just send them this proposal and they look at it and they're like, yeah, I don't really like what I see here. I don't think these guys are a good fit. I'm never going to email them again. Goodbye. And they just ghost you. But if you have them if you go over the proposal with them on the phone, you can go through a section and say, do you have any questions on that? Or what are your thoughts? And they say, oh, I don't really think this is exactly what we want. Oh, great. Well, tell me more about that. And then you can try and handle that objection, say, oh, well, actually, okay, no problem. We can do this instead. And then they're like, oh, okay, cool. So that's what I know a lot of people, especially like younger people don't really like to be on the, I don't mean to say that as a way that in a negative way, but a lot, just kind of our culture now is like a text message culture, but getting these guys on the phone is like super, super important. So you cannot be scared to get on the phone, and you got to get them on the phone to talk through this stuff so you can be able to overcome whatever objections they have. And that's the purpose of you doing it together with them with the proposal. All right. So the next thing, so you've sent them the proposal, and part of your presentation is going to be your price that you've already figured out because you already did all your research and did all the equations and stuff. So if Bethany let's make Bethany my client now. So if Bethany says, hey, like, I want a like 60-second animated video, like how much, like with characters and stuff, like how much do you think that would be? And if I just said, oh, that's like $15,000, she'd probably be like, what? Especially if she never does, because a lot of people don't know what goes into making a video. But if she told me, hey, I need the same thing, hey, I need this animated video, how much is that? And then I said, well, Bethany, have you ever worked on an animated video before? And she'd be like, no. And I say, okay, great. Well, let me tell you a little bit about all that goes into that. And that's just something that you would share on the proposal. But basically I would say, so the first step in the process is we're going to have a creative brief. And this is going to be a 60-minute phone call where we do a deep dive into your business, learn all about the problems that you solve. What are your key value propositions? Who's your target audience? What are some objections that some of your clients have, talking about the call to action and where this is going to live in your marketing funnel. And the goal of that call is for us to be able to gather enough information to be able to write the script for you guys. So that's going to be the first step. Then we're going to write the script. That usually takes about a week. And then we'll have a little bit of back and forth to get that approved. And then once that's approved, we'll send the script out to casting for voiceover talent. So we usually get about 50 or 100 auditions for voiceovers. I'm not going to make you listen to all those, Bethany, because honestly, a lot of them aren't really that great. But we'll pick out the top 5 to 10 that we think are the best fit. We'll send that over to you to review. And then once you pick the voice for your video, we'll do a directed session with yourself, the voiceover artist, and our team over the phone. They'll do it as many times as you want until you're happy about that. Do you have any questions on that so far, Bethany? So another thing is I'm going to keep going just to show you how I'm going to fill this value bucket. But you all, like, that was a lot for me to say all in a row. So Bethany might be glazing over, and maybe you guys are too. So you want to just every once in a while say, does that make sense to you, Bethany? Or do you have any questions? And she'd be like, no, that makes sense. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go back to the pitch here. So once the voiceover is done, we move into the design phase. We'll create a mood board that'll have a collection of different looking artwork where you can pick and choose what styles you want, which will give us the art direction for your video. Then when that's just done, we create a few style frames, which will be 3 to 5 frames of the custom artwork for your video that you'll be able to review and approve. And if you have any changes, it's no problem. That's why we do this sample of artwork, to make sure that we're aligned with what you want. And then when the style frames are done, we'll do the full color vector artwork for all of the storyboards. We'll go over that together on a phone call, dial in any changes. And then once that's done, we prep all of the artwork for animation, edit the voiceover, music, sound effects, animate everything. And when you get to the final video, there really shouldn't be any surprises because you've already seen everything. Now it's just animated and looking really cool. And that whole process usually takes about 6 to 8 weeks and costs about $15,000. So you see the difference between, like, when I just told her it was 15 grand, she has no idea what goes into this stuff. But when I told her, like, oh, that whole process, it takes 6 to 8 weeks and that's 15 grand, she's like, okay, yeah, I guess that kind of makes sense. You know, so that's what I mean by fill the value bucket. If the value is higher than the price, then they'll pay it. But if Bethany's never done a video before, and like lots of people think you just press the make video button and the thing spits out, and she sees online that you can get a video for $500 or something, then my price is going to be way higher than my value. So you got to fill the value bucket. Also, another way to fill the value bucket is by submitting for awards. That's why awards even exist, and why we have Emmy Awards and Addy Awards and all the awards that Bethany was talking about, is because that fills our value bucket there, that we know what we're doing. Even the Oscars, the whole reason that the Oscars exist is so that the next time they make a film, they can be Academy Award winner Denzel Washington stars in, because that's going to make you want to go see the movie. You know, so those are some ways to fill the value bucket, and that's an important part of sales. And then when you tell them the price, that's the part you're going to feel the most nervous about, because you're going to be like, you really want them to do it. You're going to be scared, probably. At least I was. So just tell them the price and then shut up. Don't say anything. Just say, and that'll be $15,000. And then just wait for them to say something. You know, if it gets to be like 20 or 30 seconds, you could say something, but don't immediately say, but you know, if that's okay with you, or I know I can make it negotiable or whatever. You just tell them 15K and see what they say first, and then continue to negotiate the price after that, if they even want to negotiate. But don't negotiate yourself out of it before they've even said no, is kind of the point of this. So that leads me to the negotiation. So like I said earlier, be prepared to handle objections and questions. So depending on the person, is however many amount of questions that they have, or whether or not they've done a video before. So as you go down the journey of your career, you'll start to know what the common questions are and how to answer them, or what are the reasons that they might not want to do it. For us, a lot of times it's either price or the timeline, or maybe they're like, we don't have a style of animation that's exactly a one-to-one match of what they want. So we've come up with a way to handle that. But one thing I would be very leery of, and why I put this picture in here, is that, you know, there'll be some people that will say, can I get a deal on the first one and I'll pay you good money after that. Only one time in the, I guess, 16 years that I've been doing this, did that actually happen, where I gave them a deal on the first one and then they came back for more videos at all, or came back for more and paid me more on the next one. So if anyone says, can I get a deal on the first one, the chances of them coming back for more is low, and of them paying you more on the next one is even lower, because now you've kind of set the precedent that you're going to be cheap. Now, when you're first getting started, when I just took whatever, like, can I get a deal first one? Sure, no problem. Because I'm trying to build my portfolio, trying to build my client list, get more experience. So at first, you know, maybe this isn't as big of a deal, but for us now, after I've been doing this for a long time, if they say, can I get a deal on the first one? Just do not expect that they're going to come back for more. If they do, it'll be a bonus. Yeah, so that's why this is the can I get a deal on the first one guy that's getting dropped through the, no, we don't like that guy. All right, So then finally, you're going to want to follow up with these guys. So whenever you're on the phone with them, on the discovery call, on the proposal call, you want to set a time to talk, the next time to talk. So you say, so after you're done with the proposal, you can say, so what do you think? They're like, well, I need to talk to my partners or my studio manager or whatever. I'll get back to you. Okay, no problem. When would be a good time to do that? Can we put something on the calendar right now? And they'll say, most of the time they say, yeah, sure. And say, okay, how about next Wednesday? I'm open all day. Does sometime work for you? And you basically schedule the time, you put it on the calendar, send them an invite, and then you call them at that time to follow up and try to get a decision. You don't want to be pushy. There's a fine line between being pushy and being assertive and trying to get them to, give you an answer. Even if that answer is no, it's better to have a no than have a ghost, So if you set up a next time to talk, that's kind of gives you the best chance for success, to be able to know what their answer is. I would say too, like if just in general, if someone says that they're interested and then you did the proposal, you set up the time to talk, let's say they don't show up for the call and you don't hear from them, you can follow up with them a couple more times, especially if you got their permission to set up a call, you could follow up a little bit more, but you don't want to be following up every day or multiple times a day. You can probably do it, at maximum, 1, maybe 2 times a week. And then if you don't hear from them for a couple of weeks, then you can kind of consider it a lost deal. All right, finally, so I know this is called how to get people to, how to price your stuff and how to get people to buy. And I talked about all this stuff with the sales process, and I know sales is like, I honestly did not want anything to do with business or sales, but this is really, really important, whether you're doing sales or a job. This is how or just interviewing for a job. This is how you get people to buy your services, is by doing all of these kind of sales techniques that I just went over here. So finally, okay, now let's say you priced all your stuff, you got the pricing, you did the proposal, the discovery call, they said yes, and now you're doing the project. Okay, so now you've got a client. So the easiest way to grow your business or your freelance business or your clients is by getting them to buy more stuff, because finding them is hard, but getting them to do more is a lot easier. So then I'm going to talk now a little bit about how to try to make sure that they continue to go with you. Okay. So first and foremost, give them a great experience. So by the way, these pictures are just ones I pulled off of my for the videos we've done, so some of them aren't like super, like you could just ignore that type there, but anyway, give them a super great experience. So keep your promises and go the extra mile for them. So when you're writing an email, make sure that it's spell checked, make sure that it's written professionally. Like if you're going to send them a link and they didn't, let's say you send them a link and they didn't reply, and then you're following up, hey, did you check my link? Like put the link in there again so that they don't have to look up the thread 2 or 3 emails to find the link. Like make it easy for them. Okay, that's kind of the goal of giving them a great experience. The less work that they have to do with you, the more likely they're going to work with you again. And if you tell them you're going to have it done by, Friday, you better have it done by Friday or before. So a lot of times what we do is to keep our promises on dates is I'll ask our artists, hey, what day do you think you can have this done? And they'll say, oh, I think I can have it done on Friday. So, okay, great. So I'll tell the client that we'll have it to them the following Wednesday. Okay, so that way, if the artist gets into trouble or whatever, something happens and they're late, like I didn't promise the client on Friday, I padded it 3 days. And if they get it done on Friday, I turned it in on Friday or on Monday and said, hey, we got it done early. And now they're even more stoked. But if you can tell them, if you keep every time that you don't keep a promise, you're chipping away at their trust in you. And that can be pain, that chips become a big block at some point and they'll just start going somewhere else. So also try to go the extra mile as much as you can with them. One way that we do that is with our revision time. I'm not sitting there watching the clock on revision time, but if it starts to get out of hand, then I'll pull that card. but I just try and do as many changes as they want until they feel happy. You know, if they email me at night, I'll get back to them. If they have a hard deadline and I know we can do it, I will make it happen. So in that deadline scenario I told you about Friday, if they need it on Friday, you tell the artist it has to be done on Thursday, and you stay late until that's done on Thursday so you can be checking it and having it done on Friday. So if you do these things, the chances of them coming back to you and also deliver a good product, then the chances of them coming back to you and telling their friends about you is very high. And this is another thing that a lot of people don't do and can separate you to give them a good experience is, you know, send them a thank you card when it's over, and maybe even a gift. This is a dead, you know, thing. No one does this anymore. So if you do this, it's going to separate you from a lot of other freelancers or companies or whatever. So we always send a thank you card. We bought these socks that say, let's brew this. And we don't send mismatched ones, but, you know, we'll send them a pair of socks and a thank you card that says, hey, just in case we knocked your socks off with the video, we thought we'd send you another pair. You know, let us know how it goes, and we're looking forward to continuing to support you in the future. Thanks for choosing us, Digital Brew. You know, so having some kind of thank you card or gift just kind of extends that experience, and it also gives them another reason to like email you or call you a month later when you send these. They're kind of, you become top of mind for them. So all these things give a great experience and get them to remember you and want to buy from you. And when it's socks, every time they wear these socks, they remember about you as well. So anyway, I guess I got rambling. I didn't take my own advice and see if you guys had any questions. So that's pretty much the end of the presentation here. But do you guys, what questions do I have, or what challenges are you guys having that I can help with? Anything? No? Okay. Well, if you don't want to put it in here and you want to talk later, you can connect with me on Facebook or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to help with this stuff. I know as an artist, like, this is the last thing you want to deal with is like sales and pricing and all this stuff, but it's a necessary evil if you want to make a career out of this thing and be able to pay your bills. So, and I want to leave you with this again, you know, just remember, whenever you're talking to people, make it about how you can help them. And the price is just a way for you to be able to do that, rather than a way for you to be able to pay your rent. And if you go with this attitude, then they're a lot more usually willing to work with you.
This was so clear, Michael. Thank you so much. It was really great. We do have one question that just came in. What do you do about price when they want a deal?
When what?
When they want a deal.
Yeah, so that's where I said, like, where I was saying about the, can I get the first one for cheap? Can I get a deal on the first one? You just have to decide where you are in your career and whether or not you want to do it. So if you're early on I'll just speak for myself. Early on in my career, if they wanted a deal, yep, I'd do it, no problem, because I just wanted to get more experience and get more work. And I would just work with whatever budget that they had. And one thing to keep in mind when you're giving someone a deal is that, you know, our work is our best marketing tool. So if you give someone a deal, you're probably going to want to go above and beyond even more. Like if someone pays you $500 for a video, and I actually did this. So someone paid me $500. I was like, okay, I'll do it for you for 500, even though I wanted 2,500. I said, okay, I'll do it for 500. But in my mind, I'm like, well, you're going to get $500 worth of work then. Don't expect too much. But then what happened was when I went to go cut my demo reel or sell more services, the only type of work that I had was $500 work. So I couldn't get that $2,500 work because I didn't have any work like that to show for it. So then I changed my mindset to say, okay, the next time I'm going to get a $500 guy, I'm going to give him the $2,500 video. And that way, when people come and say, ooh, I really like that video, how much was that? You can say, oh, that's $2,500, because guess what? Now you can prove that you've done it. So getting paid a little bit to build your portfolio is a great strategy. And, even now to this day, we still, if sometimes people want deals, we'll do it depending on the situation. Not for everyone, but we did have we had a very large sports organization come to us one time and ask us for a deal on an explainer video. We had tons of examples. They're like, well, we just need to know if you guys can do it. I'm like, dude, we can do it. How many, we have 100 videos. And so he's like, well, I know, but I got to get you in with these guys so that if you do this one for us, I'll get you in with a lot more work. And this was a big company. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So I gave him the rock bottom price that we pretty much lost money on the deal. Sent him the video, and then I'm not kidding, like the day after we sent the video, the only guy we'd be talking to at this company is like, hey guys, just letting you know I'm leaving the company and I won't be working here anymore. I was like, gosh dang it. So like now the guy that promised us all this stuff is gone. The other people don't know us, and they wanted another video and they wanted it for the same price that we gave the other guy. And I was like, no, dude, this other dude said I explained the situation like, oh, well, no, we can't afford that. So basically, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. But I think early on in your career, in my career, I was a lot more open to doing giving people deals because it helped me to build my portfolio and experience.
Great. Another question came in. Any advice for someone who has a great established career already, but is looking to freelance on the side?
What kind of, can you be more, what do you mean more specifically to that? What kind of advice do you mean for? Well, I'll tell you this while you're writing that out, is that I've been doing freelance since I graduated from Full Sail. I obviously don't do it now because I have my own company, but when I had a job for so from 2005 to 2011, I did freelance the entire time, and I had a full-time job for 4 of those years. So it's a lot of work to be able to do freelance and do a full-time job. But the nice thing about it for me was that eventually I did so much freelance and I got so many freelance clients that I was able to quit my job and start my own company. So I would encourage you to yes, do as much freelance as you can and get all that experience. And, maybe one day that freelance thing will become, you won't need your job anymore if you don't want that. And that can be the thing that you do. And that's what happened to me. Thank you, Keith. I'm glad you enjoyed it. No problem.
I want to thank all of our participants today for their thoughtful questions. This was so helpful, Michael. Really, it was so incredibly clear. As you said, price is always a really weird thing to talk about, and it's really uncomfortable. But I think that your transparency is just insanely helpful. So thanks to everybody who joined us today. And thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Bye.